Holy shit, what an intro. I don't know the spies that you have on your team that had all that information, especially about the roses. I don't remember ever telling you that. That's incredible. Good morning. I'm going to do this thing that Beyonce does at like all these concerts I see her at where she says things twice because she wants a bigger response. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, I like it. So I've never been able to follow in all my public speaking somebody saying raise your booty, so I'm pretty excited today. That's amazing. Also, I was born on January 13th. I wasn't born on Friday the 13th, but every single birthday party, for real, legit, every single birthday party that I've had in my life that fell on Friday the 13th was a complete disaster, and I am ready to break that curse today. So let's do this. Also, Matt Kelly, that's awesome. I am going to spend the night at the brass rail the night before partying, and I'm going to wake up to your beautiful voice. I'm serious. Okay. So today we are going to talk about Muse, and I would really like, hold that thought. First of all, I just want to say thank you to CreativeMornings. So I've been coming to a number of these over the last 9 months, and wow, really left inspired by so many of these talks. You guys hearing that? And to be asked to talk today is incredibly inspiring. Your team is amazing, and you don't know until you're in it how much. Can you hear that echo? And I really want that to end. Is there a way we can do that? Someone, if you want to come up here and help me. Because I've sat in this audience before and this has happened, and I kept thinking someone should end that. So, I just want to say thank you because these people are volunteers, and I actually didn't realize until I got involved in this process about a month ago that this is a complete volunteer effort, and everything that everybody is doing every month is such a magnificent effort in our community of volunteer work. So thank you to every single one of you that made this possible. I would also like to thank the 8 previous speakers before you. I have been to your talks, and then I have magically and spent all my time in the last month watching every single one of your talks on YouTube 8 times, 16 times, 20 times. Like, I have been living in this so hard, which I also have to thank my husband, because I have put you through so much. And I know you didn't know it was happening, but I've been trying to live in such a state of vulnerability that I have been the most moody, crazy, emotional version of myself in the last 4 weeks, because I just really wanted to bring it today. And I promise tonight, everything shall return to normal. All right, so here we go. Muse is actually, I've done a ton of research. I Brene Brown the shit out of this, and I went super data. And then I'm gonna bring the emotional aspect of my personal life. So Muse is one of less than 1% of the words in the human language where it has the capacity to be both a verb and a noun. The noun is a person or personified force who is the source of inspiration for a creative artist. I'm not just saying this because I'm a Creative Morning speaker and I'm supposed to say this or because of that intro, but I have longly believed that if you are a human being and you're breathing and you're in this building, you are absolutely an artist. You are an artist when you wake up in the morning and you decide what clothes to put on your back. Also, I'd like to say I've gotten more compliments this morning on this suit than I've gotten on anything I've worn in the last 6 months, and I would really like to thank you when I was shaky this morning about getting up here trying not to throw up. So, you are an artist as a human being, and literally the choices you're making every day, whether you're having waffles or eggs in the morning, you're designing your life from the car you choose to building a home, to building your relationships and your friendships, to building your career, to literally choosing to have children and creating a life. Every single day, you are the artist of your life. And I really hope that you hear that today as we're going through this. The verb, this is super easy, to be absorbed in thought. And I really feel like these go hand in hand. So you can find a muse, and then you can be mused by it. And that's how I would wrap that up. The noun is to find your muse. The verb is to be mused by it and to think on it and to inspire by it. All right, so, not yet. I did a ton of research, as I told you. I literally looked up every single TED Talk, not to rip them off, but to just have some comparison and some ideas to kind of build off of. And I'm not kidding you, there's not one single TED Talk in the entire world that has the word muse in it. I could not find one book that has the word muse in it that talks about how to inspire and live one's life appropriately because of it. So I felt like the universe was giving me the freedom to kind of build this talk from scratch, which is absolutely what I did. And I'm sure all of you will tell me there were all these books and all these videos that I missed on Muse, and that's totally fine. The one thing that I found is this magical book. This is when I knew I was on point. I was hiding in the back this morning just trying to focus on this, and I literally heard two people down the hallway talking about this book that had no idea I was going to bring it up in my talk today. So I found this book by Elizabeth Gilbert called Big Magic: Creative Living Beyond Fear. And this is the closest I got to anything that talks about the ability to muse. And since we're a creative community, I really wanted to be Oprah today and buy one for every seat and like hide it under your seats, but I don't have that much money. So what I would like to do is I would just like to know if there's anyone here that is a reader, not an audiobook reader, but an actual physical reader, which major props to you, that hasn't read this book that might want it. Yeah? Okay, I'm gonna be Oprah, hold on.
You get a book.
You get a book.
And you get a book.
Yeah, you get a book and you get a book and you get a book. I've been wanting to say that my whole life. All right, read it, and we're gonna reference this in our talk. I went as far as, dear God, I literally went to Amazon and I bought this movie that I'd heard of from 20 years ago called The Muse with Sharon Stone in it. Don't. That's an hour and a half that I will never get back. So I realized that with Muse, I really needed to dive in. I needed to make it my own. I wanted to find data that I could relay to you guys because I wanted to inspire you off of something really truthful, but I wanted to weave my own experience into it. So for me, Muse is a lot like God. It's something that maybe you believe in, maybe you don't. Maybe you're of the same religion of the same person right next to you right now, and you both think you believe in the same thing, but if I sat down and I had an intimate conversation with you, I'm pretty sure that you might have very different versions of this being that inspires you and helps you and guides you and gives you your truth every single day. Whew, all right, this is a big one. If you don't know who you are, your muse will be lost on you and everyone around you. We're going to talk about this today. So please, like, if you're taking notes, this is such a big part of it. That's me. Yeah. Like, I look at that kid's eyes and I just think like full of life and like happy and like giddy and ready for things. And like that's the person that I am now, but there was this huge gap between where I just lost myself. This is when I'm like 5 or 6. I look super sweet, but I can already see, because I know me, that I'm starting to lose it a little bit. I can see this person in here that's really wanting to just make people happy and is wanting to hide and just disappear into the background. So, all right, little backstory on me. I come from an evangelical Christian family, born in the 46807. Anybody? Ow! Yeah. Whole childhood into my teen years. And I've never met anyone that's been able to top this. So I was born into a family where my sister is 21 years my senior. My brother is 19 years my senior. My brother was going to his Southside graduation day. Like, you can't make this shit up. The day of, and the day that my brother is graduating from high school and my family is about ready to be an empty nest, my mom finds out that she's pregnant with me. True story. And they didn't tell me this. I mean, I knew I was a surprise, but I was really older before they told me that incredible story. So I was the baby, and I remember when I went to school is when I really started disappearing. I disappeared from age 5 to age 28 in my life. And I remember I would go to the bus, and I would take the bus to school. I would go to school. I would do the recesses and all the projects, the lunch hour, which was particularly brutal for me, the bus ride home. And I'm not kidding you, there were literally days where I wouldn't say a single word. All I wanted was to become the wallpaper behind me. I didn't want anybody to see me. I didn't want to hold anyone's attention. I just wanted to disappear. And there's a thing called being shy that you kind of like grow out of. But this was different for me. This felt like a prison that I felt for so long, and I never really understand like the language of what was going on that imprisoned me so hard. That 28 should be like 20,000 times bigger. So 28 accumulated with, met a guy when I was like 17, 18. We fell in love, we were together for 5 years. He did cocaine, he was into drugs and booze. He threw me down a flight of stairs once, and I'm not saying this to be a victim, I'm just trying to give you a story. Treated me like shit. My family has never accepted to this day. Actually, I'm not sure if they know my husband's first name, and they live here in Fort Wayne. And we've been together for 9 years. And I was trying so desperately to feel validated and to feel connected and to feel loved, like we all want to at the end of the day. I finally had enough courage to leave that because I was putting my life at risk. He was sleeping with 1 million people. It's actually incredibly crazy that I don't have HIV, to be incredibly honest. And fell in love with somebody else, like we all do. And you get that magical feeling again. You think everything's amazing. And I moved 6 states away for this person. And we had this long distance relationship for a couple years. I moved there for a couple years. And this is why I know that Fort Wayne is amazing, because wherever you go, there you shall be. And I lived that. And I was gonna build this life in Austin, Texas, and we were gonna have careers and live in the most creative city in America as far as I was concerned at the time. And then one day I went on the computer and I found 5 years of data of this person cheating on me after I'd moved across the country and saved all this money. So I left. I don't know how I had enough self-esteem to do that, but I did. And I had $42 in my pocket. And I'm driving home, and I didn't have enough gas money to get home, and he sure as shit wasn't gonna give me anything. And my family wasn't accepting me, so there was no one to ask, and I'd lost all my friends. So I stopped at a casino in Alabama. This is a true story. Went to a casino in Alabama. You can't make that up. And I go to a slot machine, and I'm gonna try not to cry. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna play with $5 that I really need to eat on, and I don't have enough money for a hotel or enough gas money. And during that $5, I won 120 bucks, and it got me home. And I drive home, and my family doesn't want to hear anything about my real life. They're just so glad to have me home and hoping that finally I'm coming into being a Christian again. And by the age of 28, I tried dating again, and everyone I'd ever been with cheated on me, and everybody that I attracted in my friend life deserted me or used me as a doormat or was there to party, but they weren't really like there. Like I couldn't call them at 3 in the morning. So I lost my friends. I knew that I lost my family because as long as I was a Christian and as long as I was straight, which it turns out I suck at both of these things. They were really gonna love me. And I got really real with myself, and I realized that my friendships were really an idea of a friendship, and they weren't real. And I lost all my money. And the one person I had, I call him a person, was my pup, Levi. And I got him when I was 12. I'm 28, he's 16. Everybody thought he was like 3. He just had this puppy face, right? And then this one day, he just didn't get out of bed. And it got worse, and it got worse, and I take him to the vet. He dies in my arms. And my family confronts me because it's been 3 days, and I literally won't bury him because he just looks like he's asleep. And I realize that this is the only thing I have left. It's it. I bury him, and I go into this deepest, darkest place that I've ever been to. And suicide is really real. Like it's the idea, I think, for anyone that hasn't been at that is the idea of not having to feel that pain anymore because it doesn't go away. It's not like something that you feel from 1 to 3 o'clock or that you feel on a Wednesday. It is every day, all day. And I would go to sleep and I would have these nightmares and I would wake up. And it got to the point where I didn't know if I was awake or asleep because I was waking up so exhausted every day. And I was depleted and I had nothing left. Burned me to the ground. best thing that ever happened to me. Wouldn't recommend it for anybody. So, this is Joan. This is the first story I ever did for Input Fort Wayne. I'm super proud of it. It's the best thing I've ever written in my entire life. I never plan on topping it because I want to say that forever. Joan saved my life. She invited me over for dinner. We talked about this book that you might have heard of called Eat, Pray, Love, which every gay dude and woman in here has probably read. For every straight guy in here, I'm super sorry, but you should totally try it. And I read this book called The Secret. I read it 120 times, and I'm not just saying that. I literally could recite that book to you verbatim because I made it a part of my life. And now it almost feels like I'm conjuring things because I believe in The Secret so much and I attract things so hard and my life is so incredibly awesome. And I say that so humbly because I've just come from nothing and I know what that feels like. And she invited me over for dinner. She's known me since I was 3. And we kind of lost touch for a minute and then we reconnected. And then she invited me over a week later, and then she invited me a week later, and I started just realizing it was the only thing I had to look forward to, and it was my only muse, and it was my lifeline. And I needed that. She taught me, I had no tools in my box, and she gave me everything. She taught me boundaries, and she taught me self-love. She taught me self-worth. And I showed up, and I did the work. And I woke the F up. I'm trying really hard not to curse today. I don't ever curse when I'm mad, I just curse when I'm passionate. So I ended up at, like around that time, I got this really great gig in corporate America. I was 28, I was the manager of the whole company. My whole staff, because I'm really into data, the average age was 49. I was making more money than I'd ever made in my life. We were more profitable than the 10 years before. My CEO that was making millions off of us loved me. We went paperless, we were killing it. I had friends there, and I would go home every night and I would feel completely empty. Because I wasn't born to look out a window at a parking lot every day, and I wasn't born to live at a concrete complex at DuPont that was super disconnected. So I left. Nope. And I moved downtown, and Eric Fisher gave me a shot at this office below where I lived at Midtown. And I'd been doing web design part-time for maybe 5 or 6 years then. And I really, that year it got to the point where I'm always someone that pays my bills and is responsible and is like relationship oriented and tries my best. And that year, like, I couldn't pay my rent on time. That's never happened. I couldn't afford things. And I remember going and looking in the mirror in my apartment, and I'm crying, and I'm looking right in the mirror, and I just kept saying to myself, don't give up. Don't give up. I will never work for somebody again. I know that if somebody will just give me one chance, that I will bring everything that I have to the table. And there was nothing left. And Brian was working at Lincoln Financial, and he would make food for me every night, and I would turn off my lights in my apartment at night because I could not afford my electric bill. And like, I didn't have any food if he didn't cook for me. And that was such a trying time. And then I got my contract with the Downtown Improvement District. 7 years ago, I created this hashtag called DTFW. Now if you go on Instagram, it's got over 100,000 hits, and you can see the connection of this crazy beautiful city and all the things that we're doing. How people are bringing their kids to Promenade Park, the food that we're eating at Tolan, and walking the streets, and on scooters now, and it gives me so much love. If I'm ever having a hard moment, I just go and I just like look at DTFW over and over and over on all these channels. It's easy to get inspired when you look at what is going on around us and in connection with downtown. That to me is such an incredible muse. So, we're being mused constantly, and we should give as much as we take. From Netflix to Amazon to Hulu to podcasts, to Spotify, and everything in between. Like, have you seen the new BH 90210? Did you see Big Little Lies? Did you see Game of Thrones? Oh my God, you gotta binge last season. And it's really easy to get in this cycle where you never actually get back. You get so inspired, right? You see a movie and you feel like you're on top of the world and you're like, oh, I wanna do that. But the thing is most of us aren't going out and killing people every day. And I think that as much as you're taking from that TV screen, you should be giving back to your relationships. You should, even if it's just yourself in nature, and I dare you not to Facebook about it while you're doing it, but go out and have an experience. because that's real and you're giving back to the world around you. Your muse should be more than the streaming services you subscribe to. You should create your own story. Because this is a full circle, and if you're constantly taking and you're not giving back to that circle, you're not participating in what it is to be alive. Because if you think that you're not a creative, you're wrong, because you're a human being. As much as you are taking from Netflix, you should be giving back to Fort Wayne, period. I strongly believe in that. You might be sitting next to your muse right now. Actually, I guarantee you that you probably are if you haven't met your neighbor. So, my husband is a world roller skate figure skater who's been everywhere from Australia to Switzerland and everywhere in between. And you should see this man on skates. He's already 6'2". And he can spin around you 4 times in the air like it's nobody's business. And I adore him. I remember Courtney Tritch. I have no idea how you got that story, but the flowers. She did this one-woman show at Wunderkammer, and I went to it, and she drank wine, and she cursed, this professional. And she talked about real things, and I left, and I was like, oh my God, it's okay to be me now. Because I can bring it, and I can work really hard, and I cannot curse, and I can work 16 hours a day. But I like to have a glass of wine, and I like to say the F word. And these things are not non-exclusive. And she allowed me to feel free for the first time. And I always looked up to her. She was on the board for the DID. I was always scared and intimidated of her, and I just could not do it. So I took flowers up to her office at the regional partnership. Long story short, I now have a contract with the regional partnership for the last 4.5 years. I spoke at Courtney Tritch's campaign. Actually, I had someone come up today and said, I always thought you were a politician. I heard you speak that day. And that just shows the power of Muse. Courtney mused me so hard, but I didn't sit on it. I cannot stand the idea of when someone muses me, of me not finding them and saying thank you. Because I don't think you realize, like in social media, if I get a 5% hit rate, that means I'm doing good. That means for every one person that says, Promenade Park is awesome, there's 19 people that are thinking it. And we need to do a much better job of not being the people that go to a restaurant and say, that was terrible. What about when you have a good experience? You need to let people know that. That is so important. Riverfront. I did this thing for 6 months where I made a commitment to live on the riverfront 1 day a week. Minimum, and I did everything, and it inspired me, and I became a part of my community. And until you are on that river, you will never know what our city is like. And then when I got done with that, I thought, oh my God, I want to do that again. And I wasn't publicly declaring this, I just did it on my own. And I thought Southeast Fort Wayne, where nobody goes, and Wayne TV makes $1 million off of every single day. All these stories that make it seem like it's this terrible place. And I went every day for 6 months. And I'm gonna try not to cry because it changed my life. And I had more people invite me to barbecues and come up to me and have conversation with me in Southeast Fort Wayne than I have ever had in any place, including downtown Fort Wayne. It is like the hidden diamond of our entire region. To Alex Hall, who is here today, and you might know her because of her incredible artwork and what she is doing for Art This Way. But what you don't see is the person that is in these meetings that doesn't sleep sometimes full nights because she is so committed to getting a grant made, or she is so committed to making sure that all the dots are connected so that you get this mural on the wall that you get to be inspired for. She is tireless. That inspires me. Allison Gerardo, who spoke at CreativeMornings. Yeah, please applaud her. You are not what you do. You are not human doings. You are human beings. That has stuck with me for half a year. I love you for saying that. That's everything to me. And these are the things that inspire us. Like, it's not, I don't need Netflix. I can live right here in Northeast Indiana, and maybe we could turn these into a weekly series, but I can live off of this inspirationally, and that's all I need. Trinity English, I had them come to me. We had this meeting, and they're in the Downtown Improvement District, and in my contract it states, anybody in the 99 blocks I'll have a conversation with and help them if they need some help. We're talking for like 45 minutes, and finally I go, are you trying to hire me? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, well, I have some Christian baggage, so we would probably have to have a conversation about that. I talked to Brian about it, and I sent Rebecca a message, and I said, who I was super intimidated by and also looked up to for years. And I said, meet me at this bar, because it was like my test. Meet me at this bar and have a talk with me. She was like, sure. We went to this bar, we had this great talked to my husband, and I realized, what if I don't take this account because of my history with religion, and I miss out on the ability to impact our community positively? 6 weeks ago, they went to Headwaters Park, and Pastor came out with this beautiful shirt, and Rebecca and staff, and they hugged gay kids as they were walking in for Pride Month, for Pride Weekend. And I just stood there in the background and photographed it. And that post reached 170,000 people organically and had 52,000 people reach through. And as recent from a month and a half ago as 3 weeks ago, we had people from across the country saying, thank you so much. I'd given up my faith in God, and now I actually know that there's kindness. I'd given up my faith in Christians, and now I know that I can still be a Christian. Damn. Theophilus Smith, with his art, his ability to transcend racial division with the stroke of a brush. I don't think he knows this, but he's changed my life. Christy Landergan, if you know her, she's the only reason I'm standing in front of you today. And I miss her so much. She died 3.5 years ago in a car wreck, really tragically and quickly. And that's her. I'm gonna read this so that I don't cry. Christy died 1 week before my 35th birthday in 2016 at the age of 29. She'll never see 30. The last time I saw her was on Calhoun Street. We ran into each other and embraced in front of Dash In. And as our hands pulled away, like, you know in like 90210 where they're doing that exit, or like their hands, it was like that. And pulled away, and I said, I love you, because we had this shorthand, and we didn't have to be like, how was your day? Are you okay? It was just like, I love you. And it was real, because she would disappear on me for a few months. And I'm not trying to make her out to be something that she isn't in her death. She would disappear, but I always knew she had my back. And I said, I love you. And she said louder, I love you. And I remember looking back thinking that felt really real, and I never saw her again. And I take her with her everywhere I go, and I think about her every single week. And as I'm telling these stories, and I'm making these videos, and I'm writing these articles, I just think, God, Christy would love this. I hope I'm making her proud. Like, if she can see me right now, I hope that she knows that the only reason I'm doing this 100% is because she gave me this gift. And she would be here today. All right. So, Matt, this is for you. I'm going to try so hard not to cry. I always felt when this happened that I should write you a letter, that I should come and talk to you in person. And I never did, which isn't like me. And now I know why not, because I'm supposed to do it today. So this happened. I know everybody has seen this. This is like the most incredible thing to ever hit Fort Wayne. And I wrote this Facebook post just to my very intimate circle. I'm just going to read the first paragraph. When I saw this mural for the first time in person, I had an emotional reaction. I was standing alone on Fairfield Avenue, and it hit me so hard. Those 3 words I have so identified with during tough times. Remember when I was looking in the mirror and I had no money? Don't give up. That's all I was saying to myself. Those 3 words I have so identified with during tough times. I have really felt called, for lack of a better word, to share this. For those that have been abused and assaulted, molested, imprisoned by a force greater than you, it might be hard to comprehend the need to talk about the effects of abuse. But you are not just the actual moment, but from the years of shame, confusion, missing puzzle pieces, depression, lack of self-worth that follow. The worst part about being violated is that after they are done with you, they emotionally imprison you, and then they give you the keys for you to hold. And I stared at those keys for so many years, knowing inside that I was my way out, and yet never knowing how to turn the key. And Matt Plett gave me that key. I saw that mural, and something inside of me said, this is it. And I had friends that were like, just a few friends that knew my intimate story that were like, you don't need to say this. You don't need to say this publicly. Like, you've done so much work. Like, why let people into your business? And something inside of me felt a call to something greater. And Matt allowed me to unlock my way out of my prison and tell my story and to my people because of his art. And that was the photo that I took that allowed me to let everybody know that I was sexually abused as a kid. And that was the reason from age 5 to age 28 why I had no idea who I was, and I was broken, and I was unattached to my body, and everything I touched failed me because I could not come to terms with it. and he's my muse, and he's the biggest part of what every single person in Northeast Indiana is doing every single day. I moved away, and I realized that we have everything we need right here, and New York, and LA, and Chicago, and Portland can't touch us.
I love you.
I love you. All right, so let's get to the gritty of this, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Now that I know who I am, and God, it took a minute, but I'm 38, and I'm in it. My muse is not lost on me, and because of that, when things happen to me, I get to share it with the world. And I've worked hard for that opportunity, and I get to tell people's story, and I get to connect people. I met someone last night that's a volunteer at Creative Mornings, and I am gonna blow his shit up next week. Like, he told me this story about everything he's working on, and I have no idea how I don't know about this, and I'm gonna make sure the world knows about it next week. Like, that's Fort Wayne, that's Northeast Indiana. So, 2 examples of this is, in 2016, I was really moved by the election, regardless of how you voted, totally fine, but it broke me. And went through 2017, I lost so many friendships, and God, what a nightmare that was, especially if you do social media for a living and you can never escape Twitter in the age of what is happening. And it's like New Year's 2017 going into 2018, and I'm in bed with my husband. We're like in our laptops, we're watching TV, and I just was like, had this idea. I was like, what if the personal is the political, the micro is the macro? What if the only way to change our political scene is to have one conversation at a time with the people we love? And I started something called Conversations at Hickory. We live on Hickory Street. Shoot, missed that one. There it is. And conversationsatHickory.com, and we created 6 talks, one every other month, over the course of 2018. And I thought, man, people are gonna think I've lost my mind. I'm gonna put this up on all my social channels, which are really small because I'm like super guarded, because I have so much reach in my professional life that I try to keep my personal life together. And I put up grief, a talk on grief, a talk on relationships, a talk on politics, a talk on spirituality, a talk on introvert versus extrovert, a talk on failure versus success. And I put it out to the world thinking, what if 3 people sign up and everybody thinks I'm a clown? That whole year filled up in 24 hours. Because people are hungry for connection, and they're hungry for answers, and they're hungry to make their world their own and not do it through a Facebook post. Like, you're not changing anything. You know what I mean? Like, it's fine if you're telling people your truth, but if you want to change things, have a talk with the person next to you on your street. Also, people of NEI. Super proud of this. This was spurred off of me doing something for my account with CityLink called Moving Stories, where I would hop on a bus and we would tell moving stories that are happening in our community. The very first time, I can't make this up, the very first time I get on a bus to randomly talk to somebody to say, hey, like, how's it going? How do you like Fort Wayne? How are you doing in our community? How do you like the transportation system? I'm sitting next to a black gentleman, and I reach over and I just ask if I can talk to him. He looks me dead in the eye, and word for word, and he says, Fort Wayne hates black people. Damn, I'm not gonna argue that. But I just looked at him, and I knew in my heart that it wasn't just about moving stories, that people needed to be heard. And if a white person can sit next to a black person and say, hey, like with the kindest face ever, and make him feel really comfortable and say, hey, I would just really love to know like your story on CityLink, like how's this working for you? And his response to me is, Fort Wayne hates black people. It's bigger than that. And that really birthed the idea, because of the amazing Kara Hackett, she's the one that allowed this to happen, was the people of NEI. So now, these amazing people. Sonia, she's gonna do a talk with me next month at Trinity English. She is Mexican-American, lived down by the Texas border. Nicholas, who worked at Proximo, now works at Nawa, serves his table every day with painted nails and makeup and glam and kills it. He's actually one of the best servers I've ever had in my life. And I eat out 5 nights a week. Oh my God, I love this guy with his crew. He's dancing in heels. And then Kevin, I think you all know Kevin. If you don't, you've definitely seen him around town. The most inspiring story ever of somebody who doesn't want anyone to feel sorry for him, is making active change in the world about how people can get around that are in his position, and wrote a book about it that you can actually buy at Barnes & Noble. And I get to tell those stories, and I get to go home every night and feel fulfilled because I am living in my muse, and I am in the full circle of taking, and I definitely watch my BH 90210. I am taking my muse, and I am giving it back to my community in even capacity. So, number one, know who you are. If you don't know who you are, that is your number one job. I got that from Oprah like 10 years ago, and it's everything. Sometimes you have to find out who you aren't first, and sometimes you have to clear out all that bullshit to hear the voice of Muse. But for me, and I mean no disrespect, it wasn't God that saved my life, and it wasn't me. It was my Muse. And every single day I wake up so happy that all of you, and I'm not just saying this, have changed my life and have given me everything. And I get to be a part of it, and I get to listen to you, and then sometimes I get to tell your story. Number two, find your muse or muses. If you can find one, I would be super impressed and start on your journey. But the thing is I will be mused about 18 times today because I'm so in it, and I'm living for it, and I'm connected to it. And I will jump between clients and stories, and I love when I just walk through downtown. I will walk like 5 blocks to get to my next destination, and 3 people will stop me, and one of those will become a story on social media that night. Like, that's the power of Fort Wayne. This is one more thing. I am at such a place in my life where I want real, raw relationships. I have no tolerance for anything less. Because I lost 23 years of my life. I lost 5 to 28. It's never coming back. So I am moisturizing and I am drinking my water. And when someone says, you're not 24, I will live off of that because I didn't get to be 24. So if it does not invoke inspiration, it is not a part of my life, and that's my choice, but I am all about the muse. Don't give up. Thank you.
We're going to do a quick 5-minute Q&A for anyone who would like to ask questions with Stephen. All right. Any questions right off the bat?
I have a question.
Yes.
Stephen, can I come and hang out with you for a day?
Hell yeah.
My name's Dede Parker.
Send me a message. I'm on it. That's my Twitter. Yeah, hit me up.
All right, cool.
So how did Brian come into your life? Or how did he come into your life? Put you on the spot.
I don't know if you've heard of this magical romantic tool called Grindr, but and then he drove to visit me from Cleveland because I imported him because it was really hard to find anyone to date here. And he broke down on the side of a rest stop, so I literally met my husband from Grindr at a rest stop in Ohio. It's officially the gayest story ever. Yeah.
How many years of marriage are you guys going on now?
We've been together for 9, and we got married on our 5th anniversary, so 4 married, 9 together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works out, you guys.
Ow.
All right, yeah.
So talking about Muse, I think you're right when you say like there's Muse everywhere, right? Everyone has a story.
Yeah.
You do, and what I do, and what a lot of us do. We meet so many people with incredible stories. How can everyone in this room help share someone else's story or share their own story? Because once it becomes everyone sharing, then you see all this beautiful magic kind of popping up. So how can everybody participate in that and not just leave it to the writers or people who do it professionally?
I think the easy answer is social media. I mean, that's the power of it, and that's the power of your audiences. You know, statistically, like most people have 300 to 500 friends. Like, what you can do with a story when you get, I think the thing is just like taking the ego out of it. Like when I tell stories, I always think of myself as a bridge. It's not about Steven, it's about making sure the awesomeness that I felt over here in person gets translated to the screen. It has to flow through me to do that. And if any ego is attached to it, it loses its power. So I just like get really quiet and I take it all the way through. And I think vulnerability is really the thing. And if you don't have social media, it's as easy as like the people you're talking about, like whether you're having a dinner party or going out with wine with a friend, it's like, did you hear what such and such did? Do you know, like, and that's like the stuff that I love to hear. I am so sick of going out and being like, did you hear what such and such did on Facebook? Like, but if someone has an inspiring story that can help me, like, share that story. Or God, share it with me and I'll share it with everybody. You know what I mean? Like, I think that that's what social media is the power of. Social media isn't bad. It's when we don't have boundaries, we don't know who we are, that social media becomes this horrible place because we're not centered and we're not correct in who we are. And then these beautiful channels become muddied by it, but we're the problem.
All right, Lauren. What's your favorite TED Talk or podcast or piece of media that has inspired you?
Yeah, so I have, as Brian knows, I have been living in Brene Brown, Oprah Winfrey, Glennon Doyle for four straight weeks, all day, every day. I've actually not been listening to the talks like I normally do. I've been listening to like their pauses and their intros and how many times they make people laugh and like their comfort level and if they get nervous. If they show up and the one thing I didn't do today was show up and be like, hey guys, I feel like throwing up and I don't know if we're gonna get through this. Because some people show up and they immediately apologize, and I just thought, I'm just gonna go for it because this is just where it's at. So I would say those three people in particular have never let me down, and I think it really comes down to these people are vulnerable and they are willing to like peel back a layer of themselves even if it fails them, because their job was just to show up, and then it's our job to receive it.
Yes.
Who's your favorite on BH90210?
Oh my God, I love you, Shannon Darty. So, can I just say this? Yes, Major Team Brenda. And for my husband's birthday, we're actually gonna go meet Jenny, Garth, and Tori Spelling. I'm super excited. But 1 week ago, Shannon Darty liked my tweet on Twitter. I can die now, yeah.
And you also have Shelley Long's phone number.
I do, I have Shelley Long's phone number, it's insane.
Yes. Right there, you.
For someone who values the connection and having real relationships, do you ever find yourself not necessarily having enough time to get done the things that you need to get done if you leave yourself open to having those real connectivity time with the people in our community, and how you deal with that time?
Yeah, like every day. There's never gonna be enough time. And there also needs to be the recognition that you're doing your best. And like, I know that I am enough. Like, I actually have the words, I am enough, tattooed on my arm, because they're just become a place where you know there's only 24 hours a day. Like, I really wish that like we were created with the sun going around so there were like 38 hours in a day, because then I could really kill it. And you have to make worthy of who you are in your time, and you have to clear the space for that. And like, I'm gonna try not to cry, but it breaks my heart, but like, I've let go of 7 friends in the last year. Like, I've never done that before, people that I really love that have been with me for a really long time. And I realized that like, this wasn't a 50-50, this wasn't even a 75-25. And while I'm giving these people my devotion and my time and thinking about them and loving on them and hoping that, oh, you know, like your friend that goes through a hard time for a year, these are people that have been going through a hard time for like 20 years or 15 years or 10 years or 5 years, and you realize, oh, this is a behavior that I'm never gonna be able to help, and I'm always gonna be the one giving. And it is really fascinating. I added it up. I lost like 890 pounds in the last year with letting go of these friendships, because now I get to focus on the people that are really there for me. And that's the magic of it, is if you really get real with yourself and you're really available to go through the pain and you're willing to let go of the things that you really love. It doesn't mean you don't love them. It's just like, my friend said, it's like a train where everybody's got a train. You only got one passenger car. There's only so many seats. And like, nobody's meant to be on your train for the full 100 years, if we're so lucky. You gotta let people off your train. And then there are times where you're like, hey, I love you. We have had like a great ride for like 20 years, and your stop is next. And they're like, nope, I'm coming with you. I'm not going to contribute to your life, and I'm going to take everything and make you feel like shit, but I'm coming with you. And you just got to be like, no. And what I found is just in letting go of those relationships, that you can give your time intentionally to the people that deserve it and to the new people that are like, I want to take you to coffee because I want to do that instead of giving my time to people that have been shitting all over me for 20 years.
All right, guys, one more final question before we wrap it up. Any last questions out there?
I got one. I'm so proud of you, by the way.
I love you.
Try not to get emotional. I've always seen your secret, of success as really revolving around the amount of personal integrity that you have. Could you speak to that a little bit and just how it kind of ties to the way that you live your life?
I would say that integrity for me is directly tied to relationships. I have clients that I have some clients, like I've been with the DID for 7.5 years, which is so insane, it feels like a second. And there have been clients where I sat them down and literally said, like during rough moments, they weren't upset with me, but I was just trying to stay on top of everything, and there's only so many hours of a day. And I'd say, I just want you to know that it's more important for me to make you happy than to just complete the job. I know if I complete the job to my 100%, but knowing you, and you're not gonna be happy with it, then it really doesn't matter. So it was always leaning into, they call it EQ versus IQ, which is like emotional instead of intellectual. And I was always really leaning into relationships, and I think that for me, integrity comes down to relationships. Like it's more than the project. It's always like, if you know me, I literally get 100 emails a day because I have 30 clients, and all those clients have multiple employees and people that I love, and like, I answer those emails every day, sometimes within an hour, sometimes within 3 hours, always within the day. And I want people to know that like I show up for them. Like I haven't taken a full week vacation since January of 2014. I just haven't, and like there's no room for it. I take one night vacations to Chicago on a Saturday every once in a while, but like that's because I love what I do, and my integrity is in how I present myself, and I'm not faking it when I show up and I have a big smile on my face, because I am the luckiest guy to do what I do every day, and I know if I don't bring it every day that someone else will. And if that doesn't make you rise to the occasion of integrity and understanding that this isn't just about a mission, it's not just about 99 blocks, it's not just about downtown Fort Wayne, it's about like me and you. Like if Frank doesn't like me and I'm pissing him off and I'm not meeting his needs in his job, it doesn't matter if other people think this is great, because this is where it all begins and ends, And I think that people need to invest in their relationships before they lose sight of the project.
That was great. All right, guys, one more round of applause for Stephen.